All the cards from the Space Time Smackdown set have been leaked today, so I'm going to share some of my early takes on what cards I think are going to be super strong and which cards are kinda doo-doo. I went through all the cards, and to be honest, I think this set is actually super balanced, but there were a few cards that stood out to me. I would love to hear your thoughts on the cards. Do you agree with me? Are there any cards are overlooked? And what cards are you most excited to play with? Let's jump right into it. The first combination of cards I would like to talk about are Darkrai EX and Weevil EX. These two make for a very powerful and very fast combination. You can start dealing 90 damage on the second turn you get energy. Turn 4 if you go second, and turn 5 if you go first. Darkrai EX is a basic Pokemon, and Weevil EX is a stage 1, so it should not be too hard to get the combo going. This deck will be very good against slower decks that take a while to build up. Think Charizard EX, Dragonite EX, Gyarados EX. Weevil EX only needs 1 energy to get going, and after that, we can just pump Darkrai EX with energy while dealing 20 damage to the active Pokemon. Annoyingly, Sneasel and Weevil EX are in Palkia packs, and Darkrai EX is in Dialga packs, so you won't be able to build a combo by just opening 1 pack. I'm planning on opening Palkia packs on day 1 and Dialga packs on day 2, so the fastest I'll be able to build this deck is day 2, I guess. Good luck me. The second card I wanted to talk about is Infernape EX. I've seen different opinions on him, but I think he's going to be incredible. Infernape EX is the only Gen 4 starter to get an EX version, and it doesn't disappoint. At least it doesn't disappoint me. Infernape EX doesn't need a ramp card unlike Arcanine EX or Charizard EX, and you only need 2 energy. 170 HP is very chunky and very hard to one-shot. The 0 retreat cost is what makes Infernape EX amazing. It's actually insane. So once you discard your energy, you can just retreat back to the bench for free and either put a stalling Pokemon into active spot or a Pokemon that can attack with 1 energy like Rapidash, or even Moltres EX to try and quickly ramp up energy on Infernape EX again. 140 damage is a lot, as we learned from Gyarados EX. It can one-shot most Pokemon, especially in combination with Giovanni. Flexibility will be key in Infernape decks, so we'll need cards like X-Speed, Dawn, and Leaf to make sure we don't waste any energy while retreating our other Pokemon. If we have Dawn, we might even be able to attack with Infernape EX 2 turns in a row if there is a bench Pokemon that has energy and we use Dawn to move that energy onto Infernape EX. Okay, before we talk about more Pokemon cards, I wanted to talk about Pokemon tools, because a lot of the Pokemon I'll feature on the best list will depend on Pokemon tools. So the 2 I want to highlight are Rocky Helmet and Giant Cape. Rocky Helmet is going to be a staple in decks that require a stalling Pokemon like Gyarados EX, Blastoise EX, and Dragonite. It turns any Pokemon into Druddigon, and Druddigon was the default stalling Pokemon once Mythical Islands miniset came out. You can even put Rocky Helmet on Druddigon, pretty much forcing your opponent to not attack it until they can one-shot it. And maybe not even then, since taking 40 damage puts a lot of Pokemon, even Gyarados EX, into one-shot range of attacks. I think I underestimated Giant Cape a little bit when I first saw it. Adding 20 HP can be huge for Pokemon that are in one-shot range of around 140. Think Garchomp, Weevil EX, or even adding 20 HP on Lucario means he can withstand a hit from Pikachu EX without KOing. Adding Giant Cape on Infernape, for example, will make him withstand pretty much any hit, not considering some coin flip bullshit like with Celebi EX or Licky. The only Pokemon that will be able to one-shot Infernape consistently is Charizard EX. It's going to be a very useful tool for Pokemon that have a lot of utility but lower HP because of that. Manaphy is another card I really want to highlight. I mean, it's energy ramp. What's more to talk about? We already had Misty for water decks, but now, you know, maybe it's time for Misty to move over. The new queen of ramp is here. Unlike Misty, Manaphy guarantees extra energy as long as you have 1 or 2 bench Pokemon ready to receive the energy. The ability works with all Pokemon, not just water Pokemon, so it can help ramp out colorless Pokemon or Pokemon that can use any energy, like Yanmega EX. It can also be really good in Dragonite decks since they sometimes struggle to get the right energy. Manaphy works with Gyarados EX too, especially if you combine it with Mythical Island Vaporeon or even the new supporter card Dawn. Miss Magius EX is another card that really impressed me. It looks like an incredibly fun card to play. I mean for the person playing it, not for the opponent. You can get it online really quickly with only 2 energy needed, and it's a stage 1 Pokemon, so it's easy to get online and also cheap to retrieve with only 1 energy needed. The HP is pretty standard for a stage 1 EX Pokemon, and it introduces a new special effect into the game, well, special condition, called Confusion. And how does it work? When a Pokemon is confused, when using an attack, flip a coin. If tails, then an attack fails, and the turn ends. And that should be true for all attacks, not just the ones that deal damage. So for example, you can stop Moltres EX from using Inferno Dance to ramp energy, or stop Combi from putting a basic Pokemon on the bench. The ability is super toxic, and it's a very toxic way to force your opponent to retreat. The ability also stacks with other special conditions like Burn and Poison, so you could potentially build a Confusion plus Poison or Burn deck and try to get to your opponent to retreat constantly. Like with the other special conditions, a confused Pokemon can recover from Confusion if they evolve or retreat or use a Pokemon tool like Lumberry. Unlike with Paralyze or Sleep, a confused Pokemon can still retreat. I added Miss Magius EX to the best Pokemon list because I think it's going to be incredibly fun to play if you love annoying your opponent like I do. Oh, good boy. This little boy wanted some attention. Okay, let's record together. Lucario actually leaked quite early, but I really wanted to put him on the best card list because I think he's going to be really good. I really like Lucario's ability, and I think he's going to make fighting Pokemon a lot stronger. The ability seems to be able to stack, so if you get 2 Lucario online, you'll be able to deal plus 40 damage per turn. And Lucario will be a great support in almost all fighting decks. I'm especially looking forward to playing him with Aerodactyl EX, Marshadow, and the new Gallade EX. Lucario is a stage 1 Pokemon, so it's easy to build, and it works with all fighting Pokemon that deal damage to the active Pokemon. You wanted attention, but now you're just biting me. I don't know what you want from me. I would have loved for it to affect all attacks, so we could increase Hitmonlee's attack for that sneaky 50 damage to bench Pokemon for only 1 energy, but maybe that would have been too strong. We got quite a few new metal Pokemon, but one I really wanted to showcase was Skarmory. Skarmory is very cheap to build up with only 1 energy needed, and with 1 energy and 1 Pokemon tool, you can deal 50 damage really early and fast. 50 damage for 1 energy is really good considering a lot of other metal Pokemon need a lot of energy to attack. So you can get Skarmory out early in an active spot, add 1 energy to it, and pump your bench Pokemon with energy. He's a great choice to start with in active spot and to help you put pressure on your opponent. 80 HP is kinda low, but we could increase it with Giant Cape or put Rocket Helmet on it since we need to have a Pokemon tool equipped anyway for extra damage. There are 2 more Pokemon cards I wanted to talk about, and they're a little bit more low-key than, flashy EX Pokemon. I just think that their abilities are really neat. The first one is Combi. I think Combi's ability is amazing. It helps you put a basic Pokemon from your deck onto your bench, and deck thinning is always really useful. Combi's ability is similar to Caterpie, but you're guaranteed a basic, and it doesn't have to be grass Pokemon either, so it works in dual type decks or with colorless Pokemon. Combi's ability is also colorless, so it's possible to run Combi without Wespy Queen and Grass Energy if you just want to utilize the card's drawing ability. I would say the card's only weakness is low HP and putting the basic Pokemon on the bench. Sometimes you don't want to do that if you're expecting a Sabrina or if your opponent is playing Pidgeot EX. But there's also upside to that because you could use your ability, draw a card, and then your opponent plays red card, and then what? You lose the card you just drew. So the ability, it's got these weaknesses and strengths. If you wanted to play the whole evolution line, Vespi Queen looks pretty good as well. She deals 70 damage for 2 energy only, kinda like Golduck or Sandslash. And those are pretty good burst damage Pokemon. Another low-key Pokemon I'm excited to try out is Shaman. Hear me out. Shaman's ability, Fragrant Flower Garden, is so good for a basic Pokemon that doesn't need evolving. It might actually work well with Combi because it helps you draw her, and then you just keep a Shaman on the bench to help you heal up your Pokemon. So yeah, she can do healing from the bench, and healing 10 HP from all your Pokemon early on can be super helpful. If we compare Shaman's ability with Butterfree, Butterfree heals for 20 HP, but it's a stage 2 Pokemon that needs 3 turns to get online. Whereas Shaman could get online pretty much straight away. As soon as you put it on the bench, you'll be able to use that healing ability. I wouldn't really use Shaman's attack since it's very low for 2 energy, but it could still be okay in a pinch. If we play a full healing deck with Butterfree, with Venusaur, with Shaman, there could be some insane healing to be had. And lastly, I wanted to highlight some of the new supporter cards. All the supporter cards look pretty good to me, except maybe one, which I'll talk about later. But the ones that I'm really impressed by are Cyrus, Cynthia, and Dawn. Cyrus is probably my favorite of the bunch. He's very similar to Sabrina, except you get to target a Pokemon with damage on it. It might be harder to use him to put early pressure on your opponent, but he will enable you to better target the Pokemon you really want to KO. Like, say your opponent's 40 HP Pikachu EX is hiding on the bench, and yeah, you can just hook it out with Cyrus. With Sabrina, your opponent can just give you another full health Pokemon, pretty much wasting the card. But with Cyrus, you get to choose which of the injured Pokemon you want to drag onto the active spot and finish off. You can also combine Cyrus with Pokemon that target the bench Pokemon, like Honchkrow, Mythical Island Luminion, or if you use Spirit Home, you can pretty much drag any Pokemon into the active spot. I don't think Cyrus will completely replace Sabrina, but I do think he's going to be another highly useful supporter card you see in most decks. Okay, Cynthia. I might be a little bit biased of Cynthia, but I love Gibble and I'm going to play Garchomp no matter what. Garchomp's attack is very high for just 2 energy, but I'm not sure how consistent he will be because it's a stage 2 Pokemon, so you can easily break... Fluff. And you need dual type energy for it to work. And anyone who's ever played Dragonite decks knows how frustrating it is to not get the energy you need. But unlike with Dragonite, Garchomp doesn't need 4 turns to build up with energy. So if you get lucky enough, you could potentially deal 150 damage with Garchomp using Cynthia on turn 6, which is absolutely insane. And Cynthia works with Togekiss as well, which also looks pretty strong, but is also a stage 2 Pokemon, making it easy to break with. But the plus 50 damage is still worth it, I think, and I'm predicting a lot of Cynthia decks in the meta, mostly because people love Cynthia. Why are Pokemon fans so horny? Dawn is another supporter card that I think is going to be really useful in many decks, especially Manaphy and Infernape decks. We talked about Infernape a little bit already. The ability to move energy around was previously reserved only for Lieutenant Surge and Mythical Island Vaporeon. And now Dawn can do it to any Pokemon type, but with just 1 energy. I can see her working well in combination with Darkrai EX for that extra 20 damage to opponent's active Pokemon, especially if you already have 3 energy on Darkrai. Another notable Pokemon she can work well with is Giratina. Giratina has no retreat cost if it has any energy attached to it. So if we just add 1 energy to Giratina, we can retreat it for free. And if needed, we could use Dawn to move that energy to the active Pokemon. Honestly, energy flexibility is one of the strongest abilities in the game, and I would be very surprised if Dawn didn't see a lot of play in the meta. Now let's talk about the cards that I think are going to underperform, or some that are overhyped a little bit. And the first one is Palkia EX. I know this is going to be quite controversial because I've seen a lot of people say that he's going to be good, especially because of Slash, which only needs 1 energy to start putting pressure on the opponent early on. I mean, sure, 30 damage for 1 energy is not bad, and you can start attacking your opponent super early, but you still need to reliably get 3 extra energy before you get to use Palkia's main attack. And once you do, you discard 3 water energy from Palkia EX. I mean, sure, you can ramp energy out with Manaphy and move energy around with Vaporeon or Dawn, but then you're relying so much on drawing everything perfectly. And again, once you attack with Palkia EX, you discard so much energy again. You're sitting ducks until you either manually added energy, which is way too slow, or you have to high roll with Misty, which is incredibly inconsistent. The 30 early damage is not even that good if you consider we're getting Pokemon tools that we talked about earlier, like Rocky Helmet, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be everywhere, so the 30 damage really turns into 10 damage. I mean, I could be missing something with Palkia, and I'll be happy to be proven wrong. I want all cards to be playable, but Palkia EX is just not it for me. The next cards I want to talk about, it's 3 cards, Azelf, Mesprit, and Uxie. I'm putting them together since you have to play them together in a deck or they're completely useless. You have to be an absolute god gamer to play this combination because you have to draw everything perfectly. Mesprit can deal an insane amount of damage, but it's expensive, requiring 3 energy, and both Azelf and Uxie on the bench. And it discards all energy once it uses its attack. At 70 HP each, it's going to be hard to keep Azelf and Uxie alive to be able to use Mesprit's attack. If you draw everything perfectly, you can one-shot a lot of things, but then what? It would take at least 2 more turns before you can stack energy on Mesprit again, and that is if you ramp with Gardevoir while keeping everything else alive. It's a super hard to build combo. It's almost like an Exodia build, but even when it comes together, the payoff is kinda eh. The payoff is not game winning, so I don't think it's worth it at all. It's only worth it if you really want a challenge, I think. Okay, it pains me to say, but the new Rhyhorn, Rhydorn, and Rhyperior are still bad. I was really hoping with Rhyperior being introduced this set, this whole Pokemon line would become playable, but no, it's still ass. You could argue that if you have Rhyperior build and charged with 4 energy already, you won't need more cards, but you still need a 4 energy, and there are no ways of ramping out energy, unlike with Golem or Onix. 150 attack is high, but since it will take you so long to build Rhyperior with energy, the payoff needs to be higher than that in my opinion. The retreat cost is also incredibly high, even for Rhyhorn, the basic Pokemon. The whole line is disappointing because, you know, Rhyhorn needs 2 energy to attack, Rhydon needs 3 energy attack, and yeah, it just doesn't feel good curve-wise. But maybe if they went down in energy, it would just be way too strong. It's very disappointing because I was hoping to be able to play Rhyperior. It's probably one of the only Pokemon from Genetic Apex I didn't get to play with. Hippopotas and Hippowdon are another Pokemon line that I think are pretty bad. Nothing exciting about them at all. I'm very confused by these Pokemon, but I guess they're lore accurate, but that makes them completely unplayable. Attacks are way too expensive and not worth the payoff. They're super expensive to retreat. HP is high, yes, but I don't know if it's worth it. Maybe as a tank, but I don't know if you want to use stage 1 Pokemon as a tank. Honestly, Hippowdon is so bad, it actually makes Rhyperior look playable. Next we have Bronzorg with low damage, high cost to attack, high cost retreat, HP above average, and ability is okay, but it's just not worth building up due to low attack. Bronzor is also pretty bad. Whenever a basic Pokemon that evolves needs 2 energy to attack, it's always super awkward, and in this case it's not worth the effort to evolve into Bronzorg since it's ass. Next we have Lickitung and Licky EX. The new Lickitung is so confusing to me. 3 energy to deal 50 damage, and he has 10 less HP than the Genetic Apex Lickitung. I mean, I guess it's guaranteed damage, unlike the Genetic Apex Lickitung, and it's also cheaper to retreat, but it's only really worth playing if you plan on evolving into Lickitung that requires a whopping 4 energy to deal a guaranteed 100 damage, and plus you get to roll coins until you hit tails, and you get extra 40 damage for every heads. It's definitely not a card for me because I am not a huge fan of coin flips. Yeah, you guys are gonna say, why are you playing this game if you don't like coin flips? But you know, there's a lot of cards that don't rely on coin flips. I feel like my luck is not good enough to rely on coin flips. That's why I never play Marowak EX. It's just not reliable. I mean, the potential for damage is big, yes, but knowing my luck, it's just going to be 4 energy and dealing 100 damage every time. It's very expensive to build, it's very expensive to retreat, only 100 guaranteed damage, but I guess the meme potential is high. I mean, maybe I would play it just so that I can say Licking Fury on stream. Next in the disappointing pile we have Torterra. Sadly, only Chimchar out of the Gen 4 starters got an EX version, and Turtwig got stuck with this Torterra that needs 4 energy to deal 150 damage, which doesn't sound bad for a non-EX Pokemon. But during your next turn, you can't use the attack at all. And since the retreat cost is so high, there's no way for Torterra to retreat to attack with another Pokemon. So you're basically just sitting ducks for a whole turn. I mean, I guess you could retreat it and just waste the energy, but if you've been pumping Torterra with energy the whole game, it's unlikely you have another Pokemon that can attack straight away. And it's also a stage 2 Pokemon, so more likely to brick. It's honestly not worth it unless you're a huge fan of Torterra and will have fun playing it no matter what. The last card I wanted to talk about is Mars, the only supporter card I'm putting in the worst pile. I mean, it's not the worst card, I just don't think it's going to be very good. Mars' ability is kind of like Red card, but she is a supporter card unlike Red card, which means if you play her out, you won't be able to play any other supporter cards that turn. And yes, if your opponent only needs 1 prize point to win, playing Mars will leave them with 1 card in their hand, which sounds super toxic, but if your opponent already has 2 prize points, they've probably built up their Pokemon on board already, and they are very close to winning the game. So I'm not sure how useful Mars would be in that situation. And with so many amazing supporter cards in the game, Mars just seems a bit underwhelming, and with only 20 cards in the deck, you will have to make space for her, which I don't think she is worth. She might be better in a tournament setting where you know your opponent's deck, but for casual games, I don't see her having a lot of play. But also, if I were to play in a tournament, I probably would rather play Red card than Mars. Since, you know, it's item card, you can play that plus another supporter card. Yes, there are more best Pokemon than worst Pokemon, but that's because most of the Pokemon seem pretty balanced to me. Most of them seem playable. Nothing jumps out as completely broken yet, unlike with Celebi EX and Superior in Mythical Island mini set. I'm expecting Darkrai EX and Weevil EX to be one of the more popular combos since they're super fast to set up and they'll deal with slower decks really well. 2 new fossil Pokemon look kinda insane, but I didn't include Bastiodon or Rampardos in my best cards list because they're just too inconsistent, like Kabutops and Omastar. There is no reliable way to draw a fossil Pokemon, and it's just way too easy to brick with these cards. If we were ever to get a card that helps us draw fossils like Pokeball for basic Pokemon, the stonks will skyrocket on these Pokemon. I'm so excited about the new set and I can't wait to cook up some spicy decks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss anything. And I would love to hear from you. What cards did I miss? What cards did I overlook? Or maybe I was completely wrong about some cards. I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of comments telling me about Palkia EX and how it's actually really good. I mean, time will tell. We'll see whether it's actually playable. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!